Hello and welcome to my review of the 6th Doctor Last Adventure. Now, since this release has been announced back in February, this has been a really highly anticipated release, and it's understandable. We get to see the 6th Doctor finally get a good send-off. So in this review we'll be finding out my thoughts on obviously the 4 stories and whether I think this release was overhyped or it's just alright. So, without further ado, let's look at how this lovely set is presented. So, for the cover we have Forecast Audiobook Special Limited Edition. Then we have the TARDIS there, spiralling there, and we have the sort of 80s sort of vortex. We've got Colin Baker, the Valeyard, Mel, Charlie, Constance, Flip, and Jago and Lightfoot. Then we have Doctor Who, the 6th Doctor Last Adventure. Then we have the sort of ship from Trial of the Time Lord. Then we have the main cast members there, what were featured on the cover. And then we have Big Finish. Spine is rather basic, just the Doctor Who logo there and what's saying what it is. On the back we have some pictures there and the 80s vortex, and we have some bio on each of the stories there, so do feel free to pause to know more about the 4 stories. And then we have my limited edition number. So there. Taking the Last Adventure out of its case, we have this nice little book. There we have Forecast Audio Drama, the same as the cover, this nice blue vortex. Then we have a nice picture of Colin. And then we have End of a Line. Then we have Disc 2, Red House. And we have an introduction by Colin. And we have this nice sort of picture there of McCoy and Colin merging, and you can see some of the 6th Doctor's companions there. And we have the final sort of page of Colin's introduction. Then we have some of the characters in End of a Line and Writer's Notes. Same for Red House, it's the same sort of style there with some a quote from the character and what have you. And of course you have Writer's Notes as well, which is all very nice. It's a shame Flip didn't exactly get a nice bit there, but hey ho. And we have Mel and what have you, looking rather weird. Ooh, Mel. Writer's Notes there, nice bit of Valeyard, User's Notes. Then we have some photos of the cast. Quite a few. I quite like that photo, it's quite nice. I'm trying to flip through this as quickly as possible so it doesn't lag. Then we have producers credits and what have you, and then the cast. Then we have a nice nice bit of expanded version of the concept art, which I really do like. This is one of my favourite pages of the set. We have the cover again, disc 3, disc 4, and disc 5 behind the scenes, and then on the back exactly the same as before. So, the End of a Line. Now, when I first read the synopsis for this, I thought it sounded very similar to The Crimes of Thomas Brewster, and I was sort of scared that the End of a Line may be a rehash of that. Thankfully, I was wrong. The End of a Line is a great introduction story, with it being the most standalone out of the set. Now, the story has a really great atmosphere, with it being very mysterious and dark and quite claustrophobic in places, with it being set on a train, and I think the sound design really enables and gives that sort of feel to it and makes it even more sort of mysterious and eerie with the fog surrounding this train. The story also explores some interesting concepts and delves into parallel universes, with us getting this fantastic twist. I'm not going to say what the twist is because it will just spoil the story, and I think it's best left for you to find out that twist, because it's a person I would not have expected to have featured in this set. So I'm going to go into characters now. Character wise, I have to say Constance Clark. Now, this is, for most people, the first time we've heard Constance, because she starts her adventure with the 6th Doctor in September in Crisscross, so it's quite interesting listening to a story of hers before the introduction. But what can I say about Constance? I really do like her. I think she's a strong, independent character, and she's rather gun-ho, you know, but she's not afraid of anything. She will, you know, people are too scared to leave the train. She's quite gun-ho, saying, come on, we're going to do this, and I really do like that about her. And there's this line, what I think is just beautiful, between the 6th Doctor and Constance, and it's the 6th Doctor saying, how could I forget you? And that suggests that either Constance and the Doctor have been through a lot, or they've been travelling for a while, so this is set quite late on, maybe in the 6th Doctor and Constance's sort of friendship. Now, let's go on to a man himself, Mr. Baker. I cannot fault him, he's on fine form. I mean, Colin is always on fire, and I think this box set, he gives it his all, and then right from the off, he's fantastic. But I think this story seems to have that right balance between TV Colin and Big Finish Colin, the old 60. Because you've got a sort of a brash side to him in some places when he first arrives, and then you've got his sort of softer side towards the end. It's just a great balance between what we like about Colin and how far he's come on audio. That we've got a TV Doctor and then we've got Big Finish 60. Other cast members, there's no one really what stands out. I found them rather average, and I don't think, you know, it sort of ranges from average to good. The other cast, I think Colin definitely steals it. So what do I think of End of a Line? I think that it's a great little introduction story. I like that it's quite eerie and mysterious, and it sort of sets the tone for the box set with this having this sort of mystery, which I do like. So I'm going to rate End of a Line a well-deserved 8 out of 10 cat badges. Now, the Red House. Now, I was really looking forward to this story because it's the 6th Doctor and werewolves. What more could you want from a Doctor Who story? And if I'm going to be honest, I found the story a disappointment. I found the story ranging from bad to mediocre. I think the story tries too hard to stand out because, you know, we've got the 6th Doctor's last adventure, so of course you're going to try and stand out with and Alan Barnes tries and does this by playing a twist on the werewolves, what we traditionally know and love. I found that an interesting idea, but an interesting idea on paper, but it just crumbles on audio. I think the only two redeeming features for me on this story is that this story starts to begin laying down plot points for future stories like Stage Fright and Brink of Death, so it's sort of necessary in a way. And then the other redeeming feature is the 6th Doctor and Charlie. Now, this is the first story I've listened to, the 6th Doctor and Charlie. I do have Patient Zero, but I haven't listened to that because I think that it links in with some other 6th Doctor and Charlie audios. So I love the start of this story with, you know, Charlie accidentally referencing an 8th Doctor adventure, and the 6th Doctor is sort of confused by it. So I liked that, really. The Valeyard. Now this is the sort of where he starts to become a bit more prominent, because he has a couple of scenes with Charlie, and what scenes he's in is just fantastic. He just steals it. So what are my overall thoughts on the Red House? The story starts off really strong. I really do like the start of it, but as the story progresses it just flops. It's, as I said, that it's like the Locum Doctors trilogy. Brilliant idea on paper, but it just falls on the final hurdle, which is an awful shame. I mean, my original rating was a 7, but it's gone down to either a 5 or a 6. I don't know between those, so I'm going to be generous and I'm going to give it a 6. 6 cat badges out of 10. The Red House could have been so much more, but hey ho, and I found the ending rather disappointing, and it just lacked something, which is disappointing. So overall, 6 cat badges out of 10. So, Stage Fright. Now this is where the box set starts to get going, and this is my personal favourite story out of the 4, with the story having this very dark feel with the Valeyard looming over. It's a welcome addition to have Jago and Lightfoot in the story. I thought that was quite a unique idea to have them in, and I think that Jago and Lightfoot make the story a lot lighter in the story. And I find Flip and Jago a very interesting combination, and they work brilliantly together. Surprisingly, you wouldn't think those two characters would work, but they seriously do. And the 6th Doctor and Lightfoot are just a perfect match. The Valeyard. Now this is where the Valeyard becomes very prominent with his theatrical plan, which I find really unique, and I really do like the way how he does it and how it sort of foreshadows and taunts of the Doctor, which I really do like, and I think fans will love his sort of plan because it references previous outings the Doctor's had. Now I'm going to talk about Flip. Now I've always liked Flip, and people have been a bit unsure about him, but I've always loved her character. and this has to be my personal favourite story of Flip's. Now I think that this story really does develop and round Flip's character off more with us getting to know what makes her tick, and it's quite interesting that, you know, Flip has to face her fear, much like the third Doctor did in Planet of the Spiders, so it's a nice little regeneration reference in a way, or I might be looking into things too much. Hey ho, anyway, I just thought I'd make that thing. And I think that Flip just works brilliantly with the Sixth Doctor, sort of educating, and I love Flip's little analogies like Harry Potter and her reference to the Valeyard and the Doctor being, you know, like Star Wars, that, you know, the Doctor could turn to the dark side. Stuff like that I really do like, and it just shows how lovable Flip is. You know, Victorian's Got Talent. It's stuff like that, and I really do love Flip as a character. And Colin Baker and Michael Jason are absolutely fantastic. This is where we get to see the battle of wits in this, and I think it's great how the Valeyard taunts the Doctor, and the Doctor is... It's just a really good, interesting idea with the Valeyard playing with the Doctor's past. And Colin Baker gets a beautiful speech about theatre, and I really do like that. It's one of the crowning moments for me. So Stage Fright, my personal favourite. I'm going to give the Stage Fright a well-deserved 9 out of 10. A fantastic story. Brilliant. So now let's go on to the pending doom of the Sixth Doctor, the Brink of Death. The Brink of Death. Straight from the off we see the Doctor holding back time. And if you've listened to the story, you'll know what I mean by that. And I think that's a clever idea by Nick Briggs. Now the story does have this Moffat sort of feel to it, in the sense that there's a lot of jumping back and forth through time. Which is a good idea in a way, because it links in some of the plot points from the previous stories in the box set. And Nick Briggs doesn't exactly give us a build-up, he throws us straight in the adventure, which I think is brilliant, and it gives the story tension and makes us rather confused, much like the Doctor is at the start of the adventure, which I think is great. And I think that it needed that sort of punch start to make us think, okay, this is serious, you know, Nick Briggs means business, this is a swan song, so we're going to need this heavy start. I've got to talk about Colin Baker, obviously, because this is his supposedly swan song as the Sixth Doctor. Colin is absolutely phenomenal. He's literally, you know, fighting to survive. No pun there really, I suppose, is there? The story, I feel, showcases Doctor. It showcases his brash and arrogant side, and his mood swings, and his much softer side, which Big Finish have managed to show across throughout the numerous audios, which I think is fantastic. And I think a regeneration story should showcase everything what we love about that Doctor, and I think Nick Briggs has done that beautifully. And it does have this sort of Night of the Doctor feel to it, in the way that it uses quite a few concepts of previous regeneration stories, like the War Games, Caves Around Zan. It uses elements from previous regeneration stories, but the most sort of common link I can make is the Night of the Doctor, where Colin lists his companions, and I think that it's such a heartfelt moment where he uses a lot his voice is a lot softer when he says Evelyn, which just makes me sort of go, Evelyn, which is fantastic. Now the Valeyard is a true force to be reckoned with in this. This is where he has the most power over the Doctor, and it's great to see the Valeyard antagonise the Doctor and manipulate the Doctor. It's brilliant. I mean, the plan is in full action in this, and it's brilliant. And you know you've got a good foe when the Doctor admits that he's scared, for he is frightened of the Valeyard. Whatever the Valeyard has done, you know, this is big business, and the Doctor should be scared, and rightly so he should be. Mel. Now Mel, there's not much to say about Mel. Mel is only at the sort of the start and a little bit of the middle, and of course at the very end, I suppose. But I don't mind Mel not being in the story that much, because now the Sixth Doctor gets a new companion called Genesta, who is a wonderful companion and has a wonderful relationship with the Sixth Doctor, and brings out the softer side with the Sixth Doctor seeing similarities between him and Genesta, which is fantastic, and they get on like a house on fire, as it were. Now I suppose I've got to go on to the elephant in the room, the regeneration. Is there a regeneration? There kind of is, and there kind of isn't. Obviously, if we actually see the Doctor regenerate fully, it will contradict Time the Rani, so we get to see the beginning of Colin's regeneration. So this story is very faithful to the television series. Big Finish doesn't rewrite the regeneration, it just slots in nicely before Time of the Rani begins. Now the story does include Sylvester McCoy, it's no spoiler. Did I think that he was necessary in the story? I didn't really think that we needed that little cameo of him in there. I know that you could argue that it was reassuring Colin that he would regenerate because he was scared of not regenerating, but I don't feel that it was necessary. I feel that Colin should have had, this should be very much Colin's, ending, because it sort of contradicts itself with having McCoy in, but anyway, that's another matter. But the regeneration, it kind of is and kind of isn't there. That's all I'm going to say. You're going to have to check it out for yourself to know how Colin regenerates, because I'm not going to spoil it, and if you ask in the comments, I'm just going to say listen to it, because I don't want to deprive you and ruin the story for you. So Brink of Death, I'm going to score a well-deserved 8 out of 10 cat badges. Very good story. I would have preferred a better battle, a better battle with the Valyard in the Matrix, like the Ultimate Foe. I would have loved to have had that battle of wits, but this story is very jumpy in the sense that it's back and forth, which is alright, but I think that it could have been a bit better. I would have loved to have this big grand battle in the Matrix, but what Nick Briggs did was fantastic, and an interesting idea, starting Colin's demise right from the off. So, what do I think of the Sixth Doctor's last adventure? Was it overhyped, or is it just meh? I suppose it's a bit of both, really. I mean, I didn't want the hype to get to me and ruin it, so I stayed off the Big Finish listeners for as much as I can, so I didn't ruin it for myself and think I'm going to listen to this fantastic story and be underwhelmed by it. But for what it is, I think that Big Finishers have done a brilliant job, and obviously given Colin a better send-off in him banging his head, and the regeneration in Time the Rani does make a lot more sense, which is fantastic. So would I recommend this? If you're a Sixth Doctor fan and you're debating whether to get this, just get it, because it's Colin's final outing, I suppose. But the also interesting thing, it's not only the Sixth Doctor's last, it also ties up the Valyard's sort of loose plot ends. It doesn't reveal what the Valyard is, it just finishes his story arc, which I think is good, because we don't have to worry about the Sixth Doctor and the Valyard. The Valyard is now a closed book, which is good, and I think there should be things that are left as a mystery. So there we are. The Sixth Doctor Last Adventure, I would recommend it. Is it worth £40? Depends if you want it early. I wouldn't recommend getting it. I would recommend getting it off Amazon. I believe it's £29 there, which makes it a lot more worth your money. So thank you very much for watching this review, and I'll see you in my next video. So for now, goodbye.